Back. We are back, man. I'm excited. 2025 NFL draft cycle. First mock draft on the channel for the 2025 NFL draft, and it's gonna be a fun one, man. I'm sorry that I'm late on putting this out there. Uh, this draft has been very confusing for me so far, and I'm still yet to get to watch some of these guys. But I think it's getting kind of close, and it's time to finally drop the first one on the channel. If you are new here, um, I always do these mock drafts until draft day of what I would kind of do more so, you know, rather some guys that are on YouTube or putting out articles that kind of like push off of hey, this is what I'm hearing, stuff like that. And I do a little bit of that. But it's more so if I was the GM, who am I picking? Until draft day, that's when I do my predictive mock on draft day. And if you're returning, I appreciate you for being back. Let's get into this. Tennessee Titans here on the clock at number one. A lot of ways that they can go. This is one of the most confusing picks in the draft for me right now because I don't necessarily see the need to go quarterback. I think you could play Will Levis and or Mason Rudolph or someone to that caliber, like that you could sign at free agency because Mason Rudolph is a free agent. I think you could play somebody like that again this year. Um, Last time I said this statement, this was not true, or it ended up being not true, and it ended up being like a freezing cold take. But I don't think if you're the Tennessee Titans, you're going to compete in the AFC South next year. If I'm being honest, right? Last time I said that was about the Houston Texans. If they got CJ Stroud, which I didn't see them trading up to number 3 after taking CJ Stroud and getting the best defensive player in the class as well. Because those were my 1 and 2 in that draft class was Stroud and Anderson. But yeah, I think you could play Will Levis another year. How and Abdul Carter, the edge rusher out of Penn State, that is my number 1 player in this class. And I don't really see that changing right now at all. It could, but I don't see it changing. So, having the need of an edge rusher and having a guy like Abdul Carter being on the board at number 1, I think it makes sense for them. I really, really do. I think it makes a lot of sense to them. But for right now, I think I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go with Cam Ward here at number 1 overall to the Tennessee Titans. Unfortunately, I want it to be Abdul Carter. I want to start this NFL draft season out with like a bang, being like, "Whoa, Abdul Carter number 1." I've seen it floated out there a little bit, but I haven't seen it a whole lot. And I think I'm one of the main people and only people out there really pushing for it. Number 2, Cleveland Browns. I was about to say Cavaliers. Cleveland Browns, man, I don't know what they do here. They are in probably the worst position in the NFL as an organization. They need a quarterback. Uh, they need a running back. They need offensive line help, as you can see by the team needs. I'm not reading off of that, I promise. They kind of need another receiver. David Njoku is always a question mark, healthy wise. They've got a lot going on there. And I like Travis Hunter here. I think it makes sense, but I don't think I'm going to go Travis Hunter. I'm going to go a different route here for the Browns, and I'm going to take Abdul Carter because, how do you block Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett at the same time? And on top of that, there's been the rumors floated out there that maybe Myles Garrett gets traded or requests a trade. He said, "Oh, I don't want to go through another rebuild or whatever." I think it's a possibility. I think it's a possibility that Myles Garrett is not a Cleveland Brown next year. I'm not gonna say it's gonna happen, but I think it's a possibility. And that's another thing that I always draft off of what is technically slated to happen right now. And I know that's not slated to happen. Myles Garrett is not slated to be traded, but it's a possibility. But I think even then, even if he's not traded, I think Abdul Carter still makes sense as a pick at number 2. I just think he's too good. I think he's way too good to fall past number 2. I think he's too good to fall past number 1, if I'm really being honest here. But we're going to go with Abdul Carter at number 2. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think Travis Hunter's in play. I think Shedeur Sanders is in play. Yeah. Number 3, New York Giants. Man, I think they love Shador Sanders. I think that they love him. I wouldn't. See. I'm saying that I do these based off of what I would do if I was a GM, and I wouldn't take Shador Sanders at number 3. I wouldn't take Shador Sanders in the first round. Honestly, I don't like Shador Sanders that much as of right now, at least. But man, they love this guy and they need a quarterback so bad. Like Brian Dable and Joe Shane's job depend on that. I think it depends on hitting on this pick, and I think you got to go QB. But I'm interested for free agency. I think free agency is going to tell us a lot about where the Giants are at with their draft pick, and some of these teams. It's going to tell us a lot about some of these teams. Patriots at 4. I like Ted McMillan here. I like Will Johnson. I like Travis Hunter. I like Will Campbell. But I think Travis Hunter still being on the board makes the most sense. They could use a little bit of help at corner. They could use help at receiver. And in this scenario, I think Travis Hunter would mainly play receiver and not corner, which I think he should mainly play corner in my opinion. But I think that makes sense for Travis Hunter to play mainly receiver in New England if he goes there. And then a little bit of corner here and there. Maybe like a nickel package guy, stuff like that. I'm not sure. I'm not too familiar with how often they run all that stuff, or like a dime package guy, whatever. The Jags at 5, corner I think would be in play. If Travis Hunter's still here, I would definitely take Travis Hunter to be a primary corner. However, he's not here. I think offensive line is in play with Will Campbell. But I think Mason Graham still being here is too good of an opportunity for the Jaguars to pass up on. You run out on there. Rick Armstead, I think, is still there. Josh Hines Allen, Trayvon Walker, Mason Graham. Really nice offensive line. Offensive line. Defensive line right there. Defensive front for the Jaguars. Getting it up. And I think there's a lot of corners in this draft and a decent amount of O-linemen in this draft that they can go grab somebody in those positions later on. 6 for the Raiders. I do like Ted McMillan here. I think he can make sense. Corner, I think, could make sense with Will Johnson, maybe. Both the quarterbacks, if one of the two quarterbacks was to fall here, Shador or Cam Ward, I would probably go with them here because they need a quarterback bad. But I'm going to go Ashton Jeanty here at 6 to the Raiders. I really like Ashton Jeanty. Their run game, surprisingly, wasn't like absolutely awful with the guys that they had in the backfield. But you can't rock Amir Abdullah and Alexander Madison and Sincere McCormick, and I think they had one more guy too. Wait, no, I already said Amir Abdullah. Maybe it was just those 3, but you can't rock those 3 guys on a consistent basis at running back. You hit on Brock Bowers last year. I think they kind of showed like, hey, we just want to take the best guy, and I think Ashton Jeanty is probably the best guy left on the board at this point. Maybe Ted McMillan's better than him. Maybe Will Campbell's better than him, but I think Ashton Jeanty's really really good player, and I think it would make sense at 6 for the Raiders. 7 for the Jets. I think Ted McMillan could be in play. I've been talking about, like, with my friends, I talk about the drafts and stuff with that. That wide receiver room is a little bit of a question mark right now. Garrett Wilson's obviously really good, and but I could kind of almost tell like maybe there's an unhappiness in Garrett Wilson right now. I'm not sure, but maybe he requests a trade, or maybe Devontae's gone, so on and so forth. Maybe you lose one of those 2 guys. I think you're almost like more likely to lose one of those 2 guys than not lose one of those 2 guys. I think you got to figure out what you're doing with Aaron Rodgers, all that. So I think Ted McMillan does make sense at 7 for the Jets, but I think Will Johnson makes a lot of sense too. And I think Malachi Starks makes a lot of sense too. I'm down between these 3. I like Ted McMillan there. I really do. But I'm not going to take Ted McMillan there. I'm going to take Will Johnson, the corner out of Michigan. Kind of rough 2024 season. I'm saying rough, but he had his, 76.5 pass coverage thing. But battled injuries, only played 6 games, battled injuries, but had a really good 2023. And I think you got to take Will Johnson there at 7 if you're the Jets, if he's on the board. At 8 for the Panthers, defense is definitely in play, but Ted McMillan's still sitting here. I think has got to be the pick if you're the Panthers. He's just so good, and you got some production this year out of guys that Jalen Coker being an undrafted free agent coming in having some production. You trade Jonathan Mingo finally. Um, you have Adam Thielen, but oh gosh, they have one more receiver. I can't think of. Oh, Xavier Legette. Not too big of production out of Xavier Legette this year. So I think Ted McMillan makes sense for the Panthers there at 8 if he's still on the board. If he's not, I think you pivot. Maybe you're looking Malachi Starks, maybe Will Johnson. So you're looking Will Johnson. I think Jalen Walker is an interesting name for them. Maybe Mykel Williams. I think it's either defense or Ted McMillan. I think that's how you should look at it if you're the Panthers. And so Ted McMillan still being there, which is not as likely as most scenarios, but we're going to take him there to the Panthers at 8 to join up with Bryce Young. At 9, the Saints. Man, the Saints, I say earlier that the Browns are in one of the worst organizational situations in the whole entire league, or the worst? The Saints got to be second if the Browns are first. They still don't have a head coach somehow. It's February 1st, and the Saints just still do not have a head coach hired. Their cap space situation is awful. It almost seems as if nobody wants the job. I feel like I said that to one of my friends on the phone the other day. It seems like nobody wants to be the Saints head coach. And they've got a lot of roster just question marks going on there, especially with that cap space situation. Receiver, I don't see the need as much as it's listed. Tight end, I can see the need. However, I don't see that as much either. I actually like edge for them right now. They've drafted some edge rushers early, either being in the first or second over the past few years that haven't really worked out for them. So the question is at this point, what edge rusher do you like the most? And with this being my first video out and it's coming out late, I do want to talk about some of these positions when I get there. Starting further down the board. I want to start further down the board and then work my way up. A lot of these guys I'm not too familiar with yet, or if I am going to be at all. I know Oladejo, I think is how to say his name, had a good Senior Bowl last week. I really like Josiah Stewart. I honestly almost have considered taking him in the first round a few times. Kyle Kennard's not bad. JT Tuimoloau is going to be like a round 2 guy, I think. I don't think Landon Jackson had too good of a week. I'm not too familiar with Princey. I know a lot of people like him. I'm not the biggest fan of Ezraku, but these are really my main guys that, looking at them, probably first-round guys. Scourton, Sawyer, Stewart, who had a great Senior Bowl week, Mykel Williams, Mike Green, who had a great Senior Bowl week, and James Pierce Jr. Right now, so far through this process, I've been kind of leaning towards Mykel Williams being edge 1 for me. But I think I'm going to award him after having a big week. And he's just an absolute freak athletically. I'm going to take Mike Green here at 9 to the Saints, which, wow, that's weird because I've been kind of having him more in the back end of the first round. But, man, he had a great week at the Senior Bowl from everything I saw about him. So I'm going to reward him post Senior Bowl. That's probably going to be the title of this video, post Senior Bowl, NFL Mock Draft 1.0, something like that, 2025. So Mike Green, welcome to the top 10, buddy. 10, the Bears. I think one of the most interesting scenarios I ran into the Bears is if Ashton Jeanty is still on the board here. What do? Do you take him? But he's not, so we're going to go past that. I don't think Malachi Starks fits the bill here. He'd probably be my best player available on the board. However, Will Campbell, man. Will Campbell just makes so much sense for the Bears in all aspects because he can play inside. He can play guard. He might be able to play center. You're not taking a guy at 10 to play center, though, probably. But maybe guard or tackle where he already played at. Maybe you swing Braxton Jones somewhere. I don't know. Darnell Wright had a good year this year. I think he's going to stay where he is. Braxton Jones is not bad either. So maybe you're taking Will Campbell to play left guard or right guard. At 11, the 49ers, man, I like Jalen Walker here a lot, but Malachi Starks being on the board, I think is too good of an opportunity for the 49ers to pass up on. I've seen the reports. I've seen all the stuff about Hufanga and are they bringing him back, whatever. But I do think that the 49ers, did I call them the Giants? I might have called them the Giants going to go. If I did, I'm sorry. But I think the 49ers could use him, you know, in a safety role, in a slot corner, nickel corner, whatever role. Because he has played out there. He has. He played 271 snaps in the slot last year. He somehow got 10 D line alignments, 10 at corner, 215 in the box, 400 deep safety. I think it makes sense for the 49ers. I think they could use him, use his skill set, move him around, whatever. 12 for the Cowboys. It's got to be Ashton Genty if he's on the board here. I think this is kind of like his, maybe not necessarily his floor, but potentially his floor. But the Cowboys need an edge rusher bad. I don't really see the receiver need that much. Maybe tackle, but I'm going to go edge rusher. And I'm gonna take my guy Mykel Williams out of Georgia. I like him a lot. I understand the reasoning on maybe why you don't like him. I think he's gonna test very well. I think he's gonna end up being a top 15 pick. I'm not necessarily sold on him being great or better than some of these other guys, but right now I think I'm projecting him maybe to more go higher like this. 13 Dolphins. Malachi Starks was to still be here. That's definitely got to be the pick. I think now you pivot, you look tackle. I think Kelvin Banks makes a lot of sense for them. I think Josh Simmons could make sense for them. Mimbu's still not a guy I'm super sold on yet. I know a lot of people like him, but I think I'm going to take Kelvin Banks here at 13 to the Dolphins. At 14, the Indianapolis Colts. Malachi Starks is in play. If he's here, I think James Pierce Jr. or whatever edge rusher you would like here, I think is in play. But man, I've been on this pick. I know other people have been on this pick too. But Tyler Warren to the Colts makes a lot of sense. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I'm gonna do it. We're gonna do it here at 14 to the Colts. Back, took a little break there, got my lamp on because it was getting kind of dark outside. Back to the draft though, at 15, Atlanta Falcons edge rusher has got to be the move, and you've got a nice little pool to pick from here. I think Jalen Walker could end up making sense here. Maybe I don't. The corner and receiver need are iffy for me. I could see the need for both, but first round pick wise, no, there's no shot. So you're down to James Pierce, Shamar Stewart, Sawyer, Scourton, really down between these two guys before these two guys, in my opinion. I like James Pierce a decent amount. I know one of my buddies loves James Pierce a lot. And my friend that's a Falcons fan really wants a pass rusher. And I think it makes sense for them to get one. And I'm going to take one for him. But I was going to take Shamar Stewart, but I'm going to go James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. Shamar Stewart had a great Senior Bowl week as well. I think I mentioned that earlier when talking about Mike Green in this edge class. Shamar Stewart is 6'6", 290, and he is very athletic. So I think he can make a lot of sense. Ended up being a top 15 pick in this year's draft. At 16 for the Cardinals, I think you look offensive line or probably IDL. I think the IDL need is bigger than the, offensive line need. I'm going to take my guy, Walter Nolan, right there at 16. I really like this IDL class, man. I really do. Kenneth Grant, maybe a first rounder. Tyler Williams, maybe a first rounder. I think I'm going to fit TJ Sanders in there. Not as big Derek Harmon fan as everybody else. Alfred Collins, I like. Deion Walker had a good week. I know Jaron Jeremiah likes Joshua Farmer. Might have already talked about that. I might have already talked about that earlier. But anyways, we're going to move past it. If I did, I talked about it twice. Who cares? We're here to learn about the NFL draft, right? At 17, the Cincinnati Bengals. Big question mark with them right now is, are you getting T. Higgins back? And I think it's a big question mark with two other teams earlier. I took two guys that are going to play receiver for their respective teams in the Patriots and the Panthers. I think those two teams fit T. Higgins very well. They have the cap space. They need a receiver. They're probably going to offer him more money, in my opinion, at least a little bit. But the plan is if you're Cincinnati, I think you've got to get T. Higgins back by any means. Get T. Higgins back, upgrade the defense a little bit. IDL is a need for them. I don't think I'm going to go IDL, even though I like these guys. I think guard could play. I think I'm surprised safety isn't listed here. When Malachi starts being on the board, I'm not sure. Nick Eamon would probably be the pick if I'm going to take a safety here this early. But man, I said earlier I like the pick based off of what's slated to happen until I see what happens. So I'm going to go Luther Burden at 17, the Bengals. And man, as a Steelers fan, that hurts me a little bit because I wouldn't mind Luther Burden in Pittsburgh at all. 18, Seahawks. It's got to be interior, right? It's got to be interior line. And this is a guy that I haven't really taken in my first round yet, but I know a lot of people like him. I'm going to go Tyler Booker, guard out of Alabama, right there at 18 to the Seahawks. 19 Bucks. There's a few guys here. There's a guy that I wish I would have taken a long time ago that I really like here for them. I really, really like this guy. He's my corner. I guess technically 3, but kind of 2. It depends on how I'm, ranking Travis Hunter there. I think he should play corner, so I guess technically he's corner 1. But in this scenario, this case, I took him as a receiver, kind of. Will Johnson would be corner 2. Honestly, I don't even know if Will Johnson is corner 2, but I took him that early, so I guess I got to say he's corner 2 right now. I guess I have to, but corner 2/3, whatever, is Jahdae Barron. I'm a big fan of this guy. I really like him. I like Trey Amos too. I don't mind Savon Rebel at all either. I think he's good. Maxwell Harrison had a good week at the Senior Bowl, I'm pretty sure. I know people like Azariah Thomas. I like Kobe Bryant. The rest of these guys, not too familiar with or either aren't too familiar with or don't like. I like Jabbar Muhammad. It's like a 6th, 7th round guy, a late day 3 guy. I know Jalen Smith had a decent week, I think, at the Senior Bowl as well. I think, if I'm not mistaken. But first round guys, really, you're looking at these 3, and then maybe Benjamin Morrison. The injury really concerns me with him, but I know that before pre-injury, I know his tape's really good. I like Jahdae Barron here, but I think I'm going to opt to go a different way. A pick that I've liked. Man, I can't believe he's already down at 51 on this big board. I'm going to go Jalen Walker at 19 to the Bucks. They need a middle linebacker, a guy just kind of like, command. They could use an edge rusher, and maybe you could drop him down to an edge rusher here and there. He's done it before. Let's look at his snaps by alignment at Georgia last year. 249 on the D line, 311 in the box. It's definitely an option. I see why people are a little lower on him. That run defense grade is a little bit of a question mark. But Devin White is probably done. Did I say Devin White? Wow, not Devin White. I'm sorry, my bad. Levante David is probably done. In soon, if not, maybe hits the retire button this year. Or this offseason, or maybe after this upcoming season. I don't see him being in that room too much longer. So I'm going to go Jalen Walker at 19. It's a pick that I've liked a lot. I think I've seen some people do that. I think maybe Bengal has done it. But moving on to 20, Broncos, I think it's down to 2 guys here. And one of these 2 guys that I'm down to is not on the board. So you pivot to another new 2 guys. I think it's wide receiver or tight end for them. I like Emeka Egbuka. But this is another pick that I've been doing that I really like. I really, really like this pick for Sean Payton and for that Broncos offense. Colson Loveland makes sense. They need a tight end in general, but Colson Loveland's a guy that can, play more of a stand-up tight end or receiving or tight end. So he could kind of almost fit the bill for both of that wide receiver / tight end need. If you so opt to do him, I think Sean Payton would like him in the offense. I think he'd be a good fit in addition to that offense as well. 21, Steelers, my Steelers. I'm really down to a few guys here. Emeka Egbuka is going to end up being the pick. I'm going to come back to him, though. Maybe Matthew Golden's in play. Luther Burden, if on the board, is in play and probably the pick, but he's not on the board here. And then the corners I just discussed, mainly these four, mainly these two, Savon Rebel, Jade Barron for me. I really want to take Jade Barron because I love him. I wish I could have got him earlier somewhere. Maybe the 49ers. I don't know. Um, but we're gonna go and make a Ibuka here at 21 for the Steelers. 22 Chargers. I think running back could potentially be in play. The two guys I'm looking at it maybe well, kind of three guys looking at maybe could fit in here. Maybe a Morion Hampton, maybe Dylan Sampson, and I really like Quinshon Judkins. I can't believe they have him ranked so low. I understand why they do, but man. Chargers in play though. I think running backs in play. I think receivers in play. I don't think I'd go Matthew Golden though, with him being the only one on the board. Um, Tight end, I think, is in play. If Colson Loveland gets here, I think that's the pick. But man, I like the idea of Amarion Hampton potentially there. But I also like edge. We still got Shamar Stewart here. We're gonna go Shamar Stewart at 22 to the Chargers. 23 for the Packers, wide receiver again, I think is in play, especially if Ibuka ends up being here somehow. Center, that's something you're going to worry about later in the draft. I think it's down to edge corner for me, and this is going to kind of start a cornerback run as a mini spoiler alert. First, we're going to start out with Jade Barron here at 22 to the Packers. I think it makes sense for them to take him. Jair Alexander's been hurt a lot, and I haven't been too impressed with the rest of their cornerback room, in my opinion. I think Jade Barron's a good player, really good player, in my opinion. I do know that people have talked about maybe he ends up playing safety, and I can see it, but he's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. I think Daniel Jeremiah termed him that in his big board article. He can kind of play everywhere. So I'm interested to see where his career goes with that and how early he ends up actually going, because I think he's going to end up going earlier than this as of right now. But that's where we're at currently. 24 Vikings, another corner. I just said we're starting a little run. I do like IDL here as well. I think it makes sense. I think Kenneth Grant, TJ Sanders, Tyleik Williams could make sense. Those are the only three I really would consider in the first round right now, even though I said I like a guy like Alfred Collins or Deion Walker. I know a lot of people like Derek Carmen. I know a lot of people like him, but I'm just not too high on him right now after what I've watched from him. I think running back could be in play. I think Amarion Hampton's really the only other back I could really see getting in the first round right now. Maybe Judkins, maybe Sampson, like I mentioned a minute ago. But I think with the amount of cornerbacks on the board, I think it makes a lot of sense for them to take one. I think Trey Amos makes a more sense for Minnesota than Savon Rebel. But I'm going to go Savon Rebel out of ECU. Now, we're not going to continue a corner run here. At 25 for the Texans, what do they do? Matthew Golden, I think, could maybe be in play here. Interior of the offensive line, I think, is in play. I just don't see Josh Simmons playing guard necessarily. I think maybe tackle. Maybe Mimbu is more of a true tackle. I'm down between a few guys here. Nope, sorry. I forgot he's actually listed at tackle. Must have just completely missed his name right there. I'm between Gray Zabel, who, again, another Senior Bowl week guy that had a good week, and I kind of want to reward him. And I was very impressed by the tape I saw him at the Senior Bowl this week. But I also like TJ Sanders or Kenneth Grant. D'Amico Ryans being the defensive-minded guy he is. I think I like Kenneth Grant more as the pick here. But I'm going to go Gray Zabel. I keep on going to IOL for him. He's listed as a tackle. I'm gonna go Gray Zabel to probably play guard for you. That was their kryptonite this year. That was what ultimately got them eliminated from the playoffs. Is that interior, especially interior, that offensive line was absolutely awful this year. And I think it makes sense for the Texans to take them. Take him, Gray Zabel there, the tackle out of North Dakota State. Probably gonna play interior though at 25. Rams corners in play with still having two good first round corner guys on the board. Tight end, I think, is definitely a need for them, but both the main two guys you're looking at taking the first round off the board. I know Elijah Arroyo had a good week at the Senior Bowl. I know some people like Mason Taylor, some people like Fannin and Ferguson, and people like Helm as well. But none of those guys are really sniffing first round right now, at least for me. And Josh Simmons is sitting here on the board. I think that makes too much sense for them to take him, right? Like it just makes too much sense. Trey Amos is the other option there, really, for me. But Josh Simmons still sitting on the board. I'm going to have to take Josh Simmons at 26 to the Rams. And I was talking about a corner run there a minute ago, and I only took two. And maybe we're on a technical tackle run here with Gray Zabel being listed as a tackle. We're going to take another one in Josh Connolly Jr. out of Oregon. This is a guy I've been high on. I do like him more than Mimbu as of right now. A lot of people started kind of, talking down on Connolly after the Senior Bowl last week because that clip of Mike Green blowing him up. And he was lined up as a right tackle there, and he's a left tackle. You can look at it right here. I mean, here on PFF, stats by alignment, he's a left tackle through and through. He was there at right tackle, and maybe he just didn't get his, his balance and his feet set, whatever. But I like Josh Connolly, and maybe this is a move where Ronnie Stanley is a free agent right now, technically. Like, he is a free agent in this class. Maybe you don't bring him back. I don't know. I know Roger Rosengarten actually had a pretty decent year for them at the on the other side. So I guess they're fine there. I wasn't too big of a fan of him coming out of the draft. Maybe I was wrong about him. 28 Lions. I think if Tyler Booker is still on the board here, which could be in play, I think Tyler Booker could definitely be in play for them. He's not. Maybe you take one of these guys to play guard, but I don't think so. I think corner could maybe be in play as well with Trey Amos or Benjamin Morrison. Jalen Walker, if he was on the board here, would be the pick probably, but again, he's not on the board. I'm going to take Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State, kind of keeping him local to an extent. I think it makes sense for them to take an edge rusher in the first round, especially if those guys are still left on the board, and Jack Sawyer was. So we're taking him at 28 to the Detroit Lions. 29, the Washington Commanders. What a year they had. Jaden Daniels looked so good. Like, he looked like a legit quarterback. Matthew Golden maybe coming in there, giving them some help. I think that can make sense. I think you could make a case for Armand Mimbu, or maybe even Ariante Ursure, who was a primary first-round mocked guy for a long time. They dropped him. And then he had a good week last week at the Senior Bowl, I'm pretty sure. So I think those two guys could be in play. I think edge could be in play with Nick Scourton, but they really need help at the cornerback position. Trey Amos still being here is one of my guys I've been high on through this whole process so far, and I'm going to get him in the first round here. Trey Amos at 29 to the Washington Commanders. 30, the Buffalo Bills. I do think wide receivers in play for them as well, but I think there's a big need for them, and that's on the interior of the defensive line. And Kenneth Grant still being here, I think makes more sense for them than TJ Sanders. I did mention I would probably get TJ Sanders in the first round. But maybe I'm not. Benjamin Morrison might could make sense, but with that injury history, that just makes me nervous. Man, Kenneth Grant. I'm gonna go Kenneth Grant over. I'm gonna go Kenneth Grant over TJ Sanders there. Maybe I'm not gonna get TJ Sanders in the first round. Eagles. It's like, what do you even need at this point if you're the Eagles? I very, very much have entertained a trade up here with from the Jets second rounder and getting a quarterback. I just don't think there's another quarterback that fits into the first round right now. And I think I mentioned it. I barely really want to take Shedeur Sanders in the first round right now. I think if you're the Giants, I think that's something that you could. Sorry, I'm talking about the Giants pick again while I'm sitting here at 31 for the Eagles, but that's something that you could maybe explore if you're the Giants. Trade back, let somebody else maybe get Shedeur Sanders, and then trade up into the first round late and get maybe a Jackson Dart or a, Dylan Gabriel, which is insane to say. I can't believe I just said that Dylan Gabriel's name just came out of my mouth talking about a first round pick. There's no shot, right? And there's only going to be two quarterbacks, right? All right. There's only going to be two quarterbacks taken in the first round. That's got to be the case. Anyways, sorry, random rant there, random tangent. Back to 31 with the Eagles. What are you going to do? Do you take the shot on Benjamin Morrison just in case he doesn't work out and, the injury does end up being concerning like I think it might be? Do you take another edge rusher? Do you take Nick Scourton? or maybe maybe Josiah's dude. I really want to get Josiah Stewart in this first round. I was so happy when I saw him on Daniel Jeremiah's top 50 players, him and Alfred Collins. I was very happy, and to see Jade Barron up that high. Um, Matthew Golden could be in play here, but man, I think oh man, you know I like Mimbu as well. Maybe he ends up being Lane Johnson's ultimate replacement. But I'm going to take Benjamin Morrison here, even though I didn't really want to take him in the first round. That injury is just concerning to me with a corner and a hip. Man, that concerns me. But I think the Eagles are one of the few teams that have the luxury to be able to take a guy in the first round and him not end up being good. You know what I mean? Chiefs, I'm down to four. I'm down to four people here. No, I'm down to a few people here. Maybe it is four. Maybe it's more than four, actually. TJ Sanders, Tyreek Williams. I would take TJ Sanders over Tyreek Williams, though, so that eliminates Williams. Down to Mimbu. I like Matthew Golden as an option for them. I think Nick Scourton maybe can make sense as just like a BPA pick. But let me talk about I know this video is getting long, guys. I'm sorry. But let me talk about a few guys real quick that I like. I like Dylan Gabriel. I don't mind Will Howard that much. I like Jackson Dart. Rest of this QB class is interesting. There's some interesting guys. Seth Hennigan's interesting. Wait. Time out. Has Seth Hennigan declared for the draft? When? Or did he have to? Wow. He was at the Senior Bowl. I thought he had another year left. Oh man, Memphis isn't going to be good next year. I like Memphis. I talked about the running backs. Let's talk about some receivers. I like Matthew Golden a little bit. I like Elliott Manor a little bit. I know Jake Beck had a good week last week. Xavier Restrepo did too. I don't like Xavier Restrepo though. Jaden Higgins is interesting. Jalen Willis is interesting. Tez Johnson, I really like. I almost want to take Tez Johnson. I really, really like Trey Harris, but that injury history is going to hold him back. I almost want to take Tez Johnson here. I talked about tight ends, kind of. I talked about running backs. I talked about tackles, safeties. I like Eamon Worry and Xavier Watts. That's really it besides Starks. Corners I talked about. All right, I talked about all these positions, I think. So with that being said, to end the video off, we're going to go Armand Mimbu, keeping him local. Missouri guy going to Kansas City. The Chiefs, and protecting probably the greatest quarterback of all time when it's all said and done. Unfortunately, I hate to say that, Patrick Mahomes. Quick recap. Cam Ward at 1 to the Titans, Abdul Carter 2 to the Browns, Shedeur Sanders 3 to the Giants, Travis Hunter 4 to the Patriots, Mason Graham at 5 to the Jags, Ashton Jeanty at 6 to the Raiders, Will Johnson at 7 to the Jets, Ted Rowe McMillan at 8 to the Panthers, Mike Green at 9 to the Saints, Will Campbell at 10 to the Bears, Malachi Starks at 11 to the 49ers, Michael Williams at 12 to the Cowboys, Kelvin Banks Jr. at 13 to the Dolphins, Tyler Warren at 14 to the Colts, James Pierce Jr. at 15 to the Falcons, Walter Nolan at 16 to the Cardinals, Luther Burden third at 17 to the Bengals, Tyler Booker at 18 to the Seahawks, Jalen Walker at 19 to the Bucks, Colson Loveland at 20 to the Broncos, Emeka Ibuka at 21 to the Steelers, Shamar Stewart at 22 to the Chargers, Jahdae Barron at 23 to the Green Bay Packers, Savon Revel at 24 to the Vikings, Gray Zabel at 25 to the Texans, Josh Simmons at 26 to the Rams, Josh Connerly at 27 to the Ravens, Jack Sawyer at 28 to the Lions, Trey Amos I was about to say Walter Nolan there, actually, on accident. Trey Amos at 29 to the Commanders, Kenneth Grant at 30 to the Bills, Benjamin Morrison at 31 to the Eagles, and at 32 to the Kansas City Chiefs, Armand Mimbu. I appreciate y'all stopping by. If this is your first time, please hit the subscribe button. We're putting these out every week. Hopefully, that's the plan again from last year if you're returning. Hopefully, every week, once a week. Mock drafts, some 7 rounds here and there. For some specific teams, we'll probably do 2 or 3 Steelers because that's my team. We'll probably do a Panthers. We usually do a Panthers, being from Charlotte area. And we'll do a Titans for sure. We always do the first overall pick. But yeah, hit that subscribe button. Come back and see me. We love doing NFL draft content over here, and I'm excited for this 2025 cycle. I appreciate you watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.